do you find, and I'll open this up to the whole group, like now with the advent of these GDPR and other privacy regulations that really are sort of pushing data retention and data minimization, are you finding that there's a push sort of in the other direction? Because we are seeing companies that are getting sanctioned for over preserving information. Are your companies, any of them, sort of reacting to that?
I think absolutely. I think what you want when you're thinking about big data and you're thinking about information governance is you need a watershed moment. You need someone to force you to take action and to sort of rally the troops together. And that was one for certain. For us, the other one that we were able to take advantage of was, again, that separation project where we had to decide what is our inventory of stuff and how are we going to divide that? Who needs what? And are there things that both companies need, right? But it really, you had to, you're moving out of the house. You have to pack what you need to go, right? There's not going to be anything left. And you're not going to be forever able to, dip back over into the old house you used to live in. So what do you need? And so you need those moments. And I think GPR was definitely one where you said, this is not, it's not just because we shouldn't be managing this much data and that we don't need it. We can't have it. And so what are we going to do? So you need traction, because otherwise, big data isn't big sexy all the time.
It's big messy.
Big messy.
And that to your earlier question, Andrea, I think that's one of the problems of preservation. And when you get into structured data, I think the new rules, to me, seem to think more about unstructured data than structured, in that it's so difficult to unwind that stuff and to be able to say this can go and this cannot. And then I see the same thing happening as you're saying to somebody, you have a preservation obligation and you have a data minimization privacy obligation, and the business people are looking at me, kind of like it's a Chinatown moment, right? My sister, my daughter, they don't know what to do. Do I go with should I be focused on getting rid of this, and how do I tell what subject to hold? I can't look line by line. I can't even, sometimes some of our systems can't even selectively purge. So how do you deal with that situation? It's kind of a lose-lose.
Yeah, I think that it's a very interesting point. And what about, I sort of want to dig into, all data is not created equal, right? Some data has value in, a business value. But even among the business value data, there's data that's very sensitive and has very sensitive information in it, and data that is not so sensitive, not such a big deal. So how are you dealing with that within your companies to sort of differentiate between those tranches of information?
I think it goes back to points that Amy and Pam have already made. Part of that is user education, and part of that is structure, partnering with your business technology solutions, your IT department, to say, okay, you've heard a need from the business to enable some new technology. What's the plan for that? What's going in there? So that you know how to set it up from the get-go. Is it going to have secret information? Is it going to have confidential? Is it just internal stuff? Is it stuff that could even be public? You have to walk in and say exactly what you said. I only care about X, Y, and Z, and this is what this is designed for. But you have to give users, guidance. If they're putting data everywhere, you have a problem everywhere. If you don't lock it down, you won't find it and you can't govern it. And so I think part of what you need to do is say, yes, we're going to enable this new technology. This is the kind of data that's stored there, and we know where that is, and we can get it when we need it, and we can govern it appropriately. But without sort of forethought and planning, you're creating another mess, and you're creating a nightmare when you have to say, I know that we're governing all of our data that's secret in the way that we would like to.
And I'm in the position a little bit outside looking in, but looking also to partner with IT professionals on this. I think there are a lot of different things that we consider sensitive data. In a technology company, a lot of times that looks like, your intellectual property. And I've seen some really, really great developments among our IT team, and primarily with a cybersecurity perspective, where they're developing knowledge within especially the IT and engineering community, and identifying people within the business with whom they want to partner, and really get down to brass tacks and identifying what is most sensitive and what we want to protect most, and coming up with some protocols around how and standards about how we protect that data. And it's really much of that is a data placement strategy, but also protocol within the business. And through those professionals that they've developed, we term them IP guardians. And they are folks whose distinct responsibility it is to be that conduit, to have that relationship and to build that partnership. They know about the data, how it's protected, how sensitive it is. They are playing a really significant role in the conversation about what we need to do to protect it. And that's incredibly interesting to me, because that means from an information governance perspective, which is a bit of a broader umbrella, we have many, many folks who have already developed that knowledge and that level of responsibility and concern within probably one of the hardest business units to crack, because they're busy inventing stuff.
I think that that's particularly powerful because you're sort of meeting them where they're at, right? What are some of the other ways that you can do that if the business isn't sort of approaching you? What if you're going to have to sell, in other words, I guess?
You know, I personally think there are a lot of levers that you can come to, maybe a more standardized way or a life cycle approach to your data. And, you know, for some companies, it's the e-discovery hook and ultimately what it's costing you to get through your litigation. The more data you're maintaining, the more you are potentially on the hook for discovery. But separate and apart, you know, the point I made earlier about business continuity, sometimes it's that people don't have access to the data they need to do their job because it's tied up in and not with any malintent, but it's tied up in those individual resources and not accessible, especially in situations where folks are leaving the company, right? Sometimes it's just maintaining that much data is, you know, a bit of a block when it comes to collaboration tools and how much data you're maintaining and leveraging. So I think and then I think most powerful and one of those seminal moments Constance already talked about was GDPR, right? There are definitely those situations, maybe they're coming from outside the company and from a regulatory perspective, and it's more of a response. Sometimes it's those internal levers. So I think those are lots of ways that I personally am attempting to engage the business. Another thing that I also mentioned was the protection of what is most important to us, cybersecurity. And it kind of sets the tone for breaking down a lot of silos. It sets the tone for a more comprehensive conversation about data and lifecycle management. And I think if you can get all those folks in the room, you can usually impress upon whatever line of business or whatever corporate function, there's something in it for them. There always is. You just have to show them the way.
I just want to thank all our panelists and TextIQ. You guys did a fantastic job. It's always a pleasure to show up with you guys. So
thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks all.